All right, let's dive into something that is pretty much everywhere you look these days. Protein. We've become kind of obsessed with it, right? It's been put on a pedestal as the king of macronutrients. But are we giving it a little too much credit? It's time to really dig into the science and see what's actually going on. And I mean, it is literally everywhere. It's the star of the show. You see it in protein bars, powders, shakes. It's even being added to cereals and snacks now. The message we get from all this is super clear. If you want to be stronger, build more muscle, and just be better, you need more protein.
And that is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Is this constant push for more and more protein actually backed up by solid science? Or is this whole thing driven more by really good marketing than by actual muscle gains? So to cut through all that noise, we're not going to look at just one study or listen to some influencer's opinion. Nope, we're going straight to the top. We're looking at the best evidence we have, these huge, comprehensive reviews that pull together all the best research out there.
And we're talking about a massive amount of data. There's this one landmark review, the Morton study, that combined the results from 49 different high-quality trials. That's a total of 1,863 people who are part of these rigorous scientific experiments. So, what did all that data end up showing?
Well, after sifting through all of that research, a really clear pattern started to emerge. It turns out there's a line in the sand, a point where the benefits of cramming in more and more protein, they just kind of stop.
And here is the number, 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Now, to put that into perspective, for someone who weighs about 180 pounds, that's roughly 130 grams of protein a day. Up to that point, yeah, more protein generally meant more muscle. But beyond it, the studies found no statistically significant benefit. You basically hit a ceiling.
And the science on this is super specific. In this huge analysis, any muscle gains people saw above that 1.6 gram mark were so tiny that they didn't even meet the standard for statistical significance. You know, in science terms, that just means the results could have easily been due to random chance. The bottom line is that extra protein just wasn't making a real, reliable difference.
Okay, so we've established that there's a plateau, right? There's a point where you stop getting more muscle-building benefits. But that leads to the next and maybe even more important question. If more protein isn't better, could it actually be worse?
So, new research is starting to explore a potential link between really high protein diets and a condition called atherosclerosis. This is basically when plaque, this sticky, fatty gunk, builds up inside your arteries. Over time, it can harden and make those arteries narrower, which makes it harder for blood to get through. And that, as you know, is a major risk factor for heart problems.
And this is fascinating. Researchers think they might know how it happens. It could be a kind of chain reaction. See, when you consume very high amounts of a specific amino acid and protein called leucine, it can flip a switch on a pathway in your body called mTOR. And when that gets overactivated, it can mess with certain immune cells, basically telling them to contribute more to that plaque buildup in your arteries. It's pretty complex, but the big idea is our bodies might react to extreme protein levels in ways we're only just starting to understand.
So you've got this benefit ceiling at 1.6 grams per kilo, and you've got these potential risks starting to pop up on the horizon. Which brings us to the really practical question. Where do most of us actually fall on this spectrum? Are we even close to these super high levels? Well, for a whole lot of people, the answer is yes. When you look at the data, a pretty significant chunk of the population is already eating more protein than recommended. While most people are doing just fine, a lot of us are pushing right up against, and in some cases way past, that upper limit where the benefits just plain stop. And this creates a really strange situation, right? You've got this huge disconnect. On one side, you have the science saying, hey, hold on, there's a limit here. And on the other side, you've got the market that's just screaming more and more and more, with products packing in crazy amounts of protein and an industry that is just exploding.
And I am not kidding about that explosion. The protein supplement industry is projected to become a 180 times billion-dollar market by 2025. I mean, think about that. That is an incredibly powerful engine pushing this more is better message, no matter what the science is actually telling us.
Which really brings us to the core lesson from all this research. And it's a simple idea, but it's one we tend to forget when we're trying to optimize everything. The sweet spot isn't always the absolute maximum amount you can get. Often, it's just about finding the right amount for your body.
So the next time you see a product that's boasting about its sky-high protein content, maybe just take a second and ask yourself this. Instead of just chasing a bigger number, what if the real key to feeling good and performing well is about the overall quality of your diet and just finding the right balance that works for you?
Now that is some real food for thought. Thanks so much for tuning in.